So that's a perfect segue getting into the Stone Cold Steve Austin rumor that was sort of shut down. Stone Cold Steve Austin had a Q&A where he was able to take live calls, and I was lucky enough to be able to get in on that show. I wish that it was the call that basically was picked up by all of the wrestling news sources out there around the place. But basically, somebody got the balls to call in and ask Stone Cold Steve Austin. There's lots of rumors out there online about you getting into shape, trying to get back into the ring and see if you can get a WWE return for one more big match. Maybe help somebody out, maybe help the company out, maybe just put some money in your back pocket. And Stone Cold Steve Austin knew exactly where this rumor was coming from. Stone Cold Steve Austin, he had a guest on there, and he just was talking to his guest about how he was trying to get into shape. Basically, he works out in a gym at nighttime. He knows the owner. He's got a key, and he's just sort of on this, promise keeper sort of thing where he just goes in, he opens the door. Him and Hershey, the Wonder Dog, they go in and they work out. And he wants to get back in shape to the place he wants to be, where he can be sort of looked at in a good light by walking into Gold's Gym. And that was the comeback that he was talking about. He wanted to make a comeback into working at Gold's Gym. Of course, Gold's Gym is made famous by Arnold Schwarzenegger and Hulk Hogan, back in the 80s, getting the big, huge guns. And maybe Stone Cold Steve Austin just didn't think that he was going to be taken seriously walking in there. I do know that when you listen to the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast, and he does talk about his foreseeable future, about how he just thinks he's a little bit too old and he's out of shape, and he doesn't really see the reason to get in there and maybe tarnish his image. This is something that we talked about before WrestleMania 30 a lot, because a lot of people were thinking he'd come in, maybe have a match with CM Punk. Was that there's more for Stone Cold Steve Austin to lose than there is for him to gain by having one more match at WrestleMania. What if he gets in there and he's not able to do what he once does? Now he goes out of his career on a downlight. I know that when you look at WrestleMania 19, it's maybe not one of the best Stone Cold Steve Austin matches of all time against him and The Rock. If you watch the Mania documentary, you see the things that led up to that match. Basically, Stone Cold Steve Austin, he almost, I don't know what was wrong with him. He said he's dehydrated. To me, it almost looked like this guy had a stroke, where basically he got sent into the emergency room. They had to call for an ambulance for him to come pick him up. He's talked about this on his podcast, basically, where he was in his room and he could barely move. He had to call for somebody's help to come into his room to call 911 for somebody to come down to him. They said that he was just too dehydrated from drinking too many energy drinks and too many beers, and he wasn't, in shape to be able to wrestle. He says they pumped him full of some I don't know what the hell he had, an IV full of something, and he got him into where he can go out there and he can have the match. The match that was secretly supposed to be Stone Cold Steve Austin's last match, of course, with Vince McMahon, taking his company and going public with it. If he was to lose Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 19, that would have been a big blow to the company. The Rock was already halfway out the door making movies at the time. And Stone Cold Steve Austin was one of the biggest stars that he's ever had in the history. Hulk Hogan at that point probably people thought was too old to come back. And if WrestleMania 19, Hogan would have been there, but he's on the way out the door as well. He's having the match with Vince McMahon, which would then turn into Hogan having to wrestle as Mr. America, and then basically him and Vince have a fallout, and I think Hogan leaves for a few years after that. But I don't know. Stone Cold is that one guy I'm always gonna hold on to. I know Stone Cold Steve Austin is. I think he's in his 50s. I don't think he's like nearing 60. But the dude's not what he once was. He hasn't been in the ring for 12 years. If Stone Cold Steve Austin even does sort of like the DDP appearance, where DDP says that when he does the Indies, he does three things. He does his entrance. He does his he does his entrance. He does his promo, and he does a diamond cutter. That's it. No wrestling, no matches, nothing else. Those are the three things people remember, and that's the three things people pay to see. If Stone Cold Steve Austin would just show up on Monday Night Raw, just here or there along the way, maybe one appearance a year, maybe 2 if I'm begging for it. That's the thing that I'm going to be happy for. Even if he has to do basically what The Rock did with Rusev, just show up, involve himself in a segment that he really has nothing to do with. Just run his mouth, hit somebody with a few punches and a stunner. I'm good to go. He can do this on, I don't know why I'm going to throw out the name Eugene. He just got fired from the company as a trainer. But, anybody, Zack Ryder, I don't care. Anything is going to help give us that sort of something to hold on to. Stone Cold Steve Austin did say that if he did come back into wrestling, the only thing that he could see himself doing is wrestling Brock Lesnar. If he did wrestle Brock Lesnar, basically it would be, Brock Lesnar looking up at the lights to end that match. I don't think that's really what would happen if these guys did get into the ring. I'm not going to say that I wouldn't love Stone Cold hitting Brock Lesnar with a big old Stone Cold stunner. I think that would be one of the most earth-shaking things that could happen in the history of a WrestleMania if he was to do that. But we'll have to see. Stone Cold says he's not coming back to wrestle. He did say that he had some secret, sort of thing that was going to be popping up for him come February that he wasn't able to get into. Who knows? Maybe he's kayfabing us, and maybe this thing that's going to pop up in February is going to be him coming back to WWE. Maybe he's just trying to keep the story on the down low for the next little bit, and maybe we will get the one thing that we've been looking for. Something that I've been looking